This ain't advice. I'm not your advisor. And as they say in the biz, slap that subscribe button. We're only about 100,000 away from 1,000,000. We're almost there. Welcome back. Today, we got a tasty protein shake. Take a little sip. Let's check out some questions. Citibank Accelerate Savings, the Hotel California of savings you can deposit but never leave. You open an account up to save for a down payment on a house. You open the account with $90K, eventually $115. You initially went to withdraw the money you learned. You get a daily cap of $10K a day to withdraw, huh? You said that sucks, but you'll just do 12 transfers. The first transfer went through. Subsequent transfers were canceled because of a limit. You then learned you had a $15,000 monthly limit. You went on the phone and closed the account. Good work. Short summary, you would not recommend Citibank if you plan to deposit more than $15,000. Yeah, you got to read the fine print. And this, in general, is the problem with chasing those extra high return savings accounts. Usually there's a catch. Usually there's a couple catches. So I personally just use a money market fund at a major brokerage firm. I use Charles Schwab, Vanguard, Fidelity are both real good. You just buy the money market fund. You sell it when you want to get out. The money's always available. That's what I prefer. You can get a little more yield if you're willing to jump around from Citi to Chase to Marcus to whomever. But that's the risk. I'm sorry you had to learn that lesson. Advice for someone who's recently paid off all credit card debt. You're 24 and just paid off all your credit card debt. It was around $16,000. You paid it off in a few months. You got remaining student loans and a car loan. The car loan is extremely low interest, and the student loans are under forgiveness for in case you're on the PSLF plan. You pay well above the recommended payment for both. You have $3K savings. What should you do next? Your husband has some debt. You've encouraged him to pay it off. Now you have a joint account. You have retirement. So does he. Should you just continue to save? Yeah, I'd say if your husband's got some high interest debt, unless you guys are like keeping separate property going, I don't know where you are if you're in a separate property state and you're not trying to share assets, which would be kind of weird. But other than that, probably consider paying off his debt, and probably if you're, I don't know what you mean by extremely low interest on the car loan, but if you mean like under 3%, probably stop paying that down faster. And if the student loans are all going to get forgiven, probably stop paying that down and just increase either retirement savings or savings out of retirement, or pay down your husband's debt. That's what I would think about. What happens to your 401k when you get laid off? Company you work for is laying people off. You're wondering what happens to the 401k. All right, so here's what you need to know. You get to keep the money. There may be some money. You can actually see the very first comment here. Money that you put in is going to belong to you. Money that was put in by the employer as part of what's called safe harbor, that's going to belong to you. And then any employer match might be subject to vesting. Same thing for profit sharing, if there was profit sharing. So that part will depend on if there is a vesting schedule and where you fall on that. But you get to keep whatever portion's yours. If you log in, if they have a website, it'll probably tell you what portion is vested versus unvested, and whatever's vested belongs to you. Now, what you need to remember is if there's not very much in there, the plan might have a minimum, and they might kick out your investment, basically. They might just write you a check and send it to you. That is probably not what you want, because if they do that, there's a good chance they're going to withhold 20% of it for taxes and then send you a check for the rest. What you really want to do is roll your 401k into a traditional IRA, assuming it's a traditional 401k that you're in, not a Roth. And That's something where if you're going to get kicked out, you want to get ahead of it so that you can just do a direct transfer and have the assets go straight from the 401k into the IRA. And that way, there's no money that's being withheld for taxes. Because the problem is, let's pretend it's $1,000. If they say, okay, we're kicking you out, they're going to write you a check for $800 and write the IRS a check for $200. And now, when you want to roll it over, assuming you do, you've got to write a check to your IRA account within 60 days for $1,000. You only got 800, so you got to come up with that 200 out of your own pocket, and then that 200 that they sent to the IRS, that will come back to you. That'll go on your tax return, and if you're due a refund, you'll get a $200 bigger refund, or you'll owe $200 less next year. The alternative is, and the reason that you want to roll it over, let's pretend they write you a check for you get the $800, they send 200 to the IRS. You're going to be paying taxes on the full 1,000. Maybe the 200 covers it. Maybe a little bit more for state. But then there's also going to be a 10% penalty because assuming you're not 55, you've just taken an early withdrawal. So a lot to think about. But basically, if you roll over a 401k into an IRA, it's not a taxable event. It's as if nothing happened. You have to figure out how to invest it at that point. If you're not getting kicked out, and this is true for a lot of 401k plans, as long as you have their minimum balance, you can just leave it in there. A lot of them won't kick you out. They won't get rid of you. You might have to pay like a monthly or quarterly or annual fee to stay in there. It's worth knowing what that is. If it's a $30 fee on a $500 account, probably roll it over to an IRA. But yeah, so I hope that wasn't too much. But you do want to figure this out because it would suck to pay taxes and pay an early withdrawal penalty for no real reason.